Hello, amazing souls, and welcome. I am super excited today to be chatting to the beautiful Heather Jean. So I am all about empowering mamas in business, and I love chatting to empowered women who are empowering others, which is exactly what this beautiful lady is doing. Heather and I met online last year, and I was very honoured to be invited as a guest on Heather's podcast, all about confidence through Cabaret. And it was so much fun. So I'm really excited to be here today with you, beautiful lady. So welcome.
Thank you so much. This is so much fun to have collaborative relationships. And I think that's so important for women in business, growing and finding their people is also about finding people to collaborate with. So I really appreciate you having me.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm all about collaboration and connection and celebration, celebrate what we do as well, because together we rise, and you never know who might need these beautiful services too. So having said that, I would love for you to dive in. Confidence through Cabaret. So when I first met Heather and I found her group, I was like, well, I don't perform in Cabaret. So is this really for me? Until I actually understood what it all meant. So I would love for you to dive into that. Tell us a bit about exactly what it is and what it means.
Well, thank you. So the whole premise is about finding your confidence in your personal life, your work life, or your stage life, whatever your stage is. This is our stage right now. I am also a cabaret, burlesque, and aerial dancer. So I decided that if we could channel what it takes to be on a real live stage, to show up, to take up space, to raise our voice and share a message, to feel good about our body, then wouldn't that be a wonderful thing? And I have had a business for 26 years now, which is a training and coaching consultancy. So of course, with COVID, we couldn't have big conferences, we couldn't travel everywhere. And so I decided to take all of my business knowledge, which is about interpersonal skills and leadership and, what we call oftentimes soft skills, which is, basically just communication skills and self-awareness. And so I decided to take all of that and put it into my passion, my hobby, which is all about cabaret, and help people to uplift their confidence, to really grow the confidence that we all deserve,
Oh, so much so. I think this is it's huge. The confidence thing, it holds us back in so many areas of life. I know it certainly did for me for a very long time. I know that I didn't launch my coaching business for like 6 years after I studied it, because I kept saying to myself I wasn't confident enough. So the more I kept saying that to myself, the more I played that out, and it's such a self-sabotage way of being.
Yes, exactly. So I've had a one consistent business for 26 years, and in that time I've had other businesses. But the first business that I started, I didn't have any confidence questions at all. I just did it. I didn't think about it. I didn't wonder if I was good enough. I didn't try and be perfect. I just did what I could do. And then as time went on, and as I got a little more aware, I started realizing that I was questioning things. And by the time I started Confidence Through Cabaret in 2020, I was questioning everything. So I've been on this real journey, and I think confidence isn't one of those things where it's a destination and you get it and then you're confident and then that's it. It's one of those things that comes and goes. And a lot of it comes from becoming aware of beliefs. For example, until you've started trying to sell something that's your own product, then you might not know about your beliefs of, I don't know, money or sales or failure or whatever comes up for you. And I think, the more that we put ourselves out there, the more that we open ourselves up. And this is why I love burlesque as an analogy, because very often it's about stripping off layers. And that is literally what happened to me, not only in terms of my hobby, but also in terms of understanding my own self and where my fears are coming from and what those beliefs are. And I knew that I could help other people to be able to get in touch with those and to overcome that, what I call the imposter voice.
I love that. And I love how you started the opposite end of the scale with the confidence to start with, because usually, yeah, it's not common for that. Normally it's the confidence, the lack of confidence that we tell ourselves first, and then because confidence is, you know, built, not born, so it's usually something that we practice over time. But I love how you said, you know, it's not a destination, because once you get there, it doesn't necessarily stay there, because, you know, new level, new devil, there's always something that pops up, and new beliefs that we create, you know, from either comparisonitis, that was a big one. Like if you know, see somebody that, yeah, you don't put your blinkers on, and you start to, then all those self-doubts come in, and then that knocks your confidence again to show up. But yeah, I love that you touched on all of that. So
yeah.
Sorry.
I just want to say about that message. So, for example, I go on stages where I'm not a full-time or a seasoned cabaret performer, and I go on stages with people who, from me, are icons. If I was to compare myself to them, I wouldn't do it. It's already enough to be showing up and performing. And then to have that comparisonitis and the perfectionism and all kinds of things, that adds way too many layers. And so that's where that confidence through cabaret comes. It's an analogy, right? So in cabaret, everybody has their own message. Everybody has their own costume, their own performance, their own way of moving, their own connection with the audience. And that's true in business. Right. And it's not kind of, I'm not as good a dancer as they are. I'm terrible. I have no rhythm and I don't remember choreography. Right. So already I've got some issues, but I have a very strong message that I'm there to perform and share. And I put that out there, and that's the same analogy in business, and that's where the confidence through cabaret name comes from. Is an analogy to sharing your business and showing up and sharing your message and taking up space, because too many women are shrinking and hiding.
Absolutely, that's it. And we're all unique. We've all got a message to share. We've all got our, you know, our special gifts. And I love that you help people to find that voice and really, you know, own their narrative. So can you tap into that side of things, like how we own our narrative? What does that mean for you?
Yeah. So, you know, a lot of times we work too hard, right? We're so busy thinking about the money that we want to make, and then how am I going to make that? And then we're all in the how and the how am I going to learn the things that I need to learn to be able to get the money that I want, and how am I going to get, you know, and there's so much going on that we overcomplicate it. Right. And it's about going back to, and people will know this, but it's easier said than done. Right. So it's about saying, what is it that I'm sharing? What is it? So if you're thinking about starting a business, or you're just getting into your business now, or maybe you're pivoting in your business, then what is it that you want to be sharing? What's your vision? Right? And then you can break that down from there. And whatever that vision is your message. So for example, if I was preparing a cabaret performance, some people would start from picking their music and then being inspired by that. Some people would design their costume and be inspired by that. I design my message because that makes sense, because I'm a business person, and that's how it works best in business. So I start out by saying, what is it that I'm sharing? What is the message or the statement, or in business, what is the product that I want to be putting out there into the world? And then I figure out, you know, the rest of it. I figure out the music and the costume and the movement and the same with business. So what's the first step, and what do I need to do, and breaking it down. And I kind of reverse engineer it from there. So what kind of music? How's that going to look? How's that going to feel? How's it going to show up? How am I going to show up? You know, those sort of things, the same as I would with a stage routine, but I reverse engineer it in terms of business. Now, the things that I don't know how to do, and that happens to me all the time on stage as well, then I go and get help. I ask people, I seek out coaches, programs, but not only that, I look at YouTube and all kinds of different sources to figure out how. Now, a lot of times, and this is what stopped me for a while, a lot of times I didn't know how to find out how. So that wasn't, my question wasn't the end all how, it was more the, how am I going to find out how?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And then okay, so now I know how to find out. So then I go to those sources. And then that 9 times out of 10 brings up bigger things. And the trick is finding that balance, right? Because if you go to, let's say, YouTube or any social media platform, and you start there, you can end up spending days and weeks, even months, just watching those videos or watching those webinars. I've had to cut myself off of watching webinars for a little while. So I'm ready to go back to them, but I was getting so involved in, oh, here's another one. Oh, I definitely need this one. And it's a form of procrastination.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Right. So then I recognize that as quickly as I can, and I cut myself off from that. So then I go back to, what was my narrative? What was my message? What was I trying to share? Because now I'm about 30 steps up the road, and I'm not even watching webinars on the thing I wanted to share.
Yes, I could so relate to that. I used to it's kind of like getting distracted by all these shiny objects around you and really taking you away from what the core message is as to what you're sharing to start with. So for me, I loved tapping into what are my top 3 to 5 values. And, because when I first started, I'm like, well, I don't have anything to share, went through all of that sort of stuff. And I had to really tap into what are my values? What means the most to me, and start there and share around that. Yeah. So that's how I was able to start.
So I think, like, a lot of us, we come from a business environment, or, a lot of us we had a job somewhere, right? And we worked for a company that most likely had values, unless it was a very small company and they didn't express those values. But if you worked for a large company, there were company values, and you had to know that you believe in and subscribe to those values in order to feel comfortable in that workspace. Yeah. So that's the first thing I did. Because I'm very in touch with my own personal values. The first thing I did was design my values. And those are a thread of everything. But again, a bit like Cabaret, some people start with the music, some people start with the costume, some people start with the narrative. So it's, you can start from wherever it makes sense for you, but there are some fundamental things you have to do, like know what your message is, know what your values are. And then you can start to, but you don't have to have it all there right away, because we pivot, right? We were just talking about this before the recording about, kind of changing our focus and our niche, and, kind of finding the right kind of fit. And that changes all the time. And what doesn't change is your values.
Yeah, exactly. Totally agree with you, because who I speak to now is totally different to when I got started in business as well, but my values are exactly the same. It's just that ever evolving journey. Yeah, I love that. So you have a podcast, which is super exciting. YouTube channel?
Yes. I do.
YouTube
yes.
Channel. Yeah, Facebook group. You got lots of stuff going on, which is so exciting. So can you tell us a bit about all of those avenues?
Okay, so I decided that I wanted a member site, we call it the member suite, and that's confidencetocabaret.com. That is the foundation of everything. And every month we put up a new masterclass that informs confidence in either business or personal or your stage life. And it changes, each month. And then we also put up workshops, because I love doing workshops. So we have some dance workshops, and so that was the initial vision. It's weirdly kind of taken a back seat to everything else, but for some reason I needed that in there, because I needed to know that I had a home site where I can post what I know, I can showcase and highlight other people's products. So for example, if somebody has a 6-week program, they do a 1-hour masterclass, you get a feel for it, you get a good takeaway. And if you want to know more, you can go and find out. And there's a whole page for contacts and so on for each person. So that was my vision originally. However, I don't know where the podcast and the YouTube channel came from, but the YouTube channel started because that's what we used as our foundation for recording for the website. And then it was, well, why wouldn't we turn it into a podcast? Because we've got so much great content. We've got way more interviews and collaborations than we could ever put up on a member site. Because when I go on a member site, I don't want to see 800 videos. It blows my mind. And I think I want to see them all. I don't know where to start. I won't do anything.
Yeah.
So I wanted it to be really manageable. So then we had all this wonderful content. And so we started a podcast without intention, without expectation. We started the podcast. And actually that is my love, honestly. I adore having the podcast. I never let it, go for a week even without having an episode, without connecting with somebody, because that's been my way of connecting with people like yourself. I mean, it's just, I adore it. I also have a Facebook community where I hang out. That is, so I'm on all the socials. I'm on LinkedIn and Instagram and Twitter and Clubhouse and everything. But my passion is hanging out on the Confidence to Cabaret community on Facebook, because that's where the people are. That's where we get to get really vulnerable and we get to share ourselves. And we get to sort of go, I'm really struggling, or I'm doing really great. Here's how it's working for me. And then, a lot of times I'll say to people, I don't know how to do that. Can we do it live and you can explain it? And so it's just a beautiful community. And that for me is everything. And then instead of kind of fulfilling the members site, which I was expecting would be the foundation, I ended up doing all kinds of programs because people said, can you do like workshops for us? And I started doing that. And then I have so many workshops going on that now I do 6-week programs where I have once a week, I have movement in your body without your brain, which is just so, it's like therapy. And then the other session each week is about feeling good in your body, about self-love, about overcoming imposter syndrome, and about really kind of the core things that help us to be able to drive our unshakable confidence.
I love that. So exciting. And that Facebook community is such a beautiful, safe space to be. I absolutely love it. It's just, such a beautiful community that you've created there. So
thank you.
And so your workshops, are they all online? Or do you do in-person events as well? I know you're based in the UK.
I don't do personal events yet, but I cannot wait to do personal events. So I'm going to be starting retreats in September. And I made it from September because I wanted it to have like enough space for everybody to be able to travel. And that will be all about self-acceptance. So that will be, doing the work behind the beliefs, but it'll also be having some fun and learning some glove peels and, doing a little bit of cabaret and just really celebrating our body and our worth and just how wonderful the things that we have are.
I love that. Gives me goosebumps.
Thank you.
So in the written section of this post, I'll have all of your links. So any one of you who would love to connect with Heather, please subscribe to her podcast. Absolutely amazing information. And you just go away just feeling so empowered and confident. They're amazing interviews. And I've had so much fun with that. So just a couple of quick questions to finish it up. I would love to know, what is one of your proudest moments?
So many. I think for me, getting through a tough 2019, 2020, I am so proud of. My late husband passed away in 2019 with Alzheimer's, left me in a ton of debt. I had to move house. I had a car accident while I was moving house. So I had neck and spine injuries. So I was cut off from my dance world for a while. And then I just got back to normal at the beginning of 2020. And then we all know what happened. And then again, I was cut off. And that was a tough time. Like some days I was celebrating getting out of bed, like I got up, I got showered and I got dressed and I'm celebrating. I have to say, across in the bigger picture of my life is balancing raising my children and running a business. I think that my boundaries, my values, my conviction for both of those, I feel very proud of the balance that I created. I was at every event and I still, had a very successful business. And I love that I found that balance. It taught me a ton about barriers and boundaries and beliefs.
So important. I'm absolutely honoring and celebrating you for all of that. That's incredible.
Thank you.
So good. So for a bit of fun, when I was an interviewee on your podcast, you asked, so much fun.
Is this revenge, Lee? Is this what's happening?
It's revenge. You asked me what my stage name would be, and I'm actually returning that question to you. What would your stage name be? And talk into why you actually asked this question as well, because I found it very empowering.
Okay, so I always, because I talk a lot about imposter syndrome, and I always say, name that imposter so that you can talk to it and go, thanks for protecting me. What is it? What is behind this fear? What's going on? And so on. And the same thing happens when we have a literal stage life. We tend to have a stage name. And so I'm going to ask you for yours in a minute. So I created my first stage name was Helen Back. And that was based on all of the crap that I had been through and all of the difficulty. And it was like therapy. And I was quite aggressive and ragey in my style because I'd had all this hell and I was back kind of thing. And when COVID happened, I decided that I didn't want to live in that ragey energy anymore. And I did a lot of work and I let it go. And my stage name is also Helen, because I am a businesswoman. I am also a cabaret performer. I am also a badass powerhouse of energy. I am also all of the things that go against the stereotypes because I can. I'm also somebody who deserves to take up space. I'm also all of those things. And so I am also Helen. So there's a throwback to the Helen from the Helen Back. And then I am also anything I want to be.
Oh, I love that. I love that story. Yeah, that's cool.
So the reason why I asked you to tell us your stage name is, and I would encourage anybody who's watching this to think of what would your stage name be, but don't think too long. You already know it really quickly. And if you overthink it, then it's either you're trying to be clever or you're trying to shrink. So for example, if you think that you are Queen Phoenix, and then you think, oh no, I can't say that. What will people think? Then you downplay it, and then that's overthinking it. But also sometimes people are trying to be really clever and trying to think of something that's funny. It's like, but who is that inner queen, that inner goddess, that inner powerhouse? Who is that fierce persona that when you tap into it, you feel completely unstoppable? What was your stage name?
Mine's Queen Lil.
Oh,
I tap into it all the time because she makes me feel unstoppable. And I just love that you brought that out, because ever since I tap into her, and it's kind of like, you feel like you've just stepped back in your power. If ever you feel like you're out of that or out of alignment or whatever, it's like tap back into that, and tap into that before you go and do anything that you might feel a little bit of fear inside of you, and it just gives you that bit of extra courage. I love it. Absolutely love it.
It's about stepping into your spotlight, right? It's like anytime that you kind of lose your spotlight, right? And then you're like, oh, I'm in the dark here. It's like, okay, but wait a minute. But also Helen doesn't stand in the dark. She steps into the spot. Do you know, it's that, right? I mean, I'm dramatizing it, but it is that. It is that energy. And we can access it anytime. I used to need very high heels because I dance in like 9-inch heels. So I used to need very high heels to be able to do it. And I had to learn that, tapping into that without the, for some people it's color, for some, or, makeup or lipstick, or, there's all kinds of things that help us to step into our power. And for me, it was heels. And that was a bit of a problem because we were working from home during the pandemic. And then how do I wear heels on a podcast? It's weird. So I learned to step into that without that.
Yeah.
And that's what your stage name will help you to be able to do.
Yeah. I love it. I love
that.
Love it. One last question for you. What would be a top tip that you've got for any beautiful soul watching this that may feel like a little bit like they're really wanting to come out of their shell, but they're not quite sure what they can implement first? What would be a tip for those people?
Well, so always breathe. Like that's a tip. That's the foundation of anything. Like always breathe. So when I do movement classes, I always say like, you take like a deep cleansing breath and you breathe into your diaphragm and your lungs. And if you can, you breathe in deeper. I always struggle to be able to breathe past my diaphragm, right into my stomach. So I always say breathe like with your shoulders down. So when we just start to warm up, his shoulders back and down anyway. And then when you breathe, don't raise your shoulders, and that goes into your stomach, and that's a really beautiful thing. So I say start from there. And then in terms of a lifelong tip is learn to live with fear. Like learn to not have that be the enemy, right? Because you'll never go on your stage, whatever that is, if your fear is the enemy, right? It's called stage fright. Everybody's heard of stage fright. It's real. And the biggest stars that we've ever had have had stage fright. So you have to learn to channel that, to get the butterflies flying in formation, to really feel that. And the way that I do that is that I recognize that feeling in my body of absolute fear, and I go, this is exciting.
Yes. Yeah.
Because excitement and fear feel the same in your body.
Yes.
And how you talk to yourself about it, how you channel the energy of that fear and say, this is something else. This is exciting. This is opportunity. This is, whatever it is that however you want to talk about it, but learn to make your friend be fear. Because that means you're on the right track, because you should be boots shaking every day. It's exciting. It's cheaper than plastic surgery too.
I love that. And it is the best tip ever, because I can so relate to that. And it's something I've really worked on over the last few years, is that feeling that fear, turning it into excitement and doing the damn thing anyway. And the growth and the magic that happens on the other side of that is just out of this world. So I love that. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that.
You're so welcome. I think particularly, not only, but especially women, we shrink ourselves way too much. Stop doing that.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Step in our power. Absolutely. Tap into that beautiful. I'd love everyone to have that be your home plate, those of you watching. So I really invite you to just really tap into your stage name and play with it, have fun with it. This has been so much fun, beautiful lady. Thank you so much for your time. So everyone watching, all of the links will be in the written part of this video. Connect with this beautiful lady, Heather, and her podcast, subscribe to it all, and her Facebook community. You'll have so much fun. So thank you, beautiful lady. I appreciate you.
It's been such a pleasure. And I would say, never be afraid to step into your light, but never be afraid to ask the questions. And if you're afraid to go live, if you're afraid to record a podcast, if you're afraid to do your first thing, I've been so many people's first, it's kind of becoming a reputation now. So I'm always happy to have anybody who wants to share what they want to say. And I know, Lee, that you open this space for others to express themselves as well. And I just think the more that we can do that, the more that we can really start to figure out where our light is, let alone step into it. So if you ever want to go live, do a podcast recording, do something to just take your first step, get in touch.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Have an amazing day or evening, wherever you are in the world, when you watch this recording. And thank you, beautiful lady. I'll chat to you.
Thank you.